The Battle of Berestechko was fought between the Ukrainian Cossacks, led by Hetman Bohdan Khmelnytsky, aided by their Crimean Tatar allies, and a Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth army under King John II Casimir. It was a battle of a Cossack rebellion in Ukraine that took place in the years 1648 to 1657 after the expiration of a two-year truce. Fought over 3 days from 28 to the 30th of June 1651, the battle took place in the province of Volhynia, on the hilly plain south of the Sti River. The Polish camp was on the river opposite Beresteczko and faced south towards the Cossack army about 2 kilometers away, whose right flank was against the river Plyashivka and the Tatar army on their left flank. It was probably the largest European land battle of the 17th century. Armies. The number of Polish troops is uncertain. One of the senior Polish commanders, Duke Boguslaw Radziwiłł, wrote that the Polish army had 80,000 soldiers, which included 40,000 regulars and 40,000 nobles of the Lithuanian mass, accompanied by roughly the same number of various servants, footmen, and such. Some modern historians, such as Zbigniew Wojcik, Joseph Jirowski, and Władysław Zopliński, have reduced this figure to 60,000 minus 63,000 soldiers. The Cossack army totaled 80,000 men, including 28,000 minus 33,000 Tatars and an uncertain number of Ukrainian peasants, or as many as 100,000 men, most of them low-grade foot troops, plus 40,000 to 50,000 allied Crimean Tatar cavalry and a few thousand Turks and Vlachs, for a total of 200,000. Both sides had about 40,000 cavalry. Fighting was close, with the corps of excellent Cossack infantry making up for the weakness of their cavalry. Most of the decisive fighting occurred between the infantry and dismounted dragoons of each side. On the 19th of June 1651, the Polish army numbered 14,844 Polish cavalry, 2,250 German-style cavalry, 11,900 German-style infantry and dragoons, 2,950 Hungarian-style infantry, 1,550 Lithuanian volunteers, and 960 Lukka Tatars. In addition, there was a huge militia force, of limited value, numbering 30,000 noblemen of the Lithuanian mass. The Polish commanders were hoping to break the Cossack ranks with a charge of the Polish winged hussars, a tactic that had proven effective in many previous battles, including at Kharkiv and Klushin. The Cossack army was well acquainted with this Polish style of war, having had much experience fighting against the Poles and alongside them. Their preferred tactic was to avoid an open field battle, and to fight from the cover of a huge fortified camp. First day of battle. 2,000 Polish cavalry repulsed the Tatars, who suffered heavy losses during the first day of skirmishes by the Tatar and Cossack vanguard regiments. The Poles were victorious, since their army sustained that first attack cheerfully and in high spirits. Second day of battle. The Poles, encouraged by their success on the first day, deployed all their available cavalry against the main Tatar horde and Cossack vanguard regiments. The Polish infantry and artillery remained in camp and did not support the cavalry. This time, Tatar cavalry gained the upper hand, pushing the Poles back to their camp, but were then barely repelled by heavy fire from the Polish infantry and artillery. The Poles lost 300 soldiers, including many officers of caliber, and the escort troop of Hetman Mikołaj Potocki. During the second day of the battle, the rebels were victorious, although the Tatars, too, were unpleasantly surprised by the determination and endurance of the Polish army in both battles, and, having suffered rather painful losses of their own, they lost heart. Third day of battle. The king insisted, at a night council, on engaging the enemy in a decisive battle the next day, Friday the 30th of June. The Polish army appeared out of the morning mist in full strength, but only the Tatars engaged in skirmishes, which was met by the Polish artillery. At 3 p.m., Duke Jeremy Wisniewski led a successful charge of 18 cavalry companies against the right wing of the Cossack Tatar army, and the zealous cavalry attack was a success. It broke up the rows of Cossack infantry and the wagons moving in corral formation. The Polish infantry center, under the personal command of King John Casimir, advanced slowly forward and drove the Tatars from the field. During the fighting, a Polish nobleman called Otwinowski noticed the Tatar Khan's standard, and Polish artillery was directed to fire at it. A Tatar standing next to the Khan fell dead. With the battle already turning against him, the Tatar forces panicked, abandoning the Khan's camp as it stood, with the Khan taking Khmelnytsky and Vyhovsky hostage. With their cavalry support gone, the Cossack wagon fort, containing the vast bulk of the Cossack army, now stood isolated on the battlefield, and in effect was under siege by the Polish army. The siege of the Cossack wagons. The Polish army and Cossack camp exchanged artillery fire for 10 days while both sides built fortifications. The Poles tried to blockade the camp. Leaderless without Khmelnytsky, the Cossacks were commanded by Colonel Filandrlalai, who after a few days was replaced by Ivan Buin. Other accounts state the commander was Matvei Ladky. When the offered terms for surrender were rejected and the Poles dammed the Plyashivka River so as to flood the Cossack camp, the Poles prepared to attack on July 10, while the Cossacks prepared to escape the encirclement by moving across the river. When Buin led away 2,000 cavalrymen to cross the river, the main body of the Cossack army thought that their officers were fleeing and panicked. The Cossack rank-and-file soldiers began to flee. The Polish forces attacked the panicked Cossacks and the battle turned into a slaughter with more than 20,000 killed or drowned. Khmelnytsky's tent was captured intact, with all his belongings, which included 2 banners. One he received from John II Casimir's 1649 commission and one from Vladislav IV in 1646. Schematic map of the battle aftermath. As the battle ended, King John Casimir made the error of not pressing even harder the pursuit of the fleeing Cossacks. The first several days following defeat of the enemy were so blatantly wasted, but there was the unwillingness of the nobility's levée en masse to proceed into Ukraine, plus rainy weather and a lack of food and fodder, coupled with epidemics and diseases that were becoming active in the army, were generally undercutting any energy for war. The king left the whole army to Potocki on the 17th of July NS, and returned to Warsaw to celebrate his victories over the Cossacks. After making promises of a pecuniary nature, Khmelnytsky was soon released by the Tatar Khan. He was then able to reassemble the Cossack host, which was able to present a substantial army to confront the Poles at the Battle of Berestechko. Poland and the bulk of the rebels make peace in the Treaty of Berestechko on 28 September 1651, which reduces the number of registered Cossacks from 40,000 to 20,000 and deprives them of the right to settle in or control various provinces of Ukraine previously allowed to them under the Treaty of Zaborev. The Ukrainian revolt, far from ending, would continue for several more years under Khmelnytsky. Legacy. Samuel Twardowski's narrative poem, The Civil War, describes the setting for the battle along the Sti River. There is a little town on it, in the middle of Volhynia, called Beresteczko, belonging to the Leszczyński family. That was not as famous in the past as it has now become. Both ancient Cannae and Cortina are far outshone by it, because as many heads here our eyes have seen as at Thermopylae or Marathon they counted, although there the whole strength of Europe and Asia had come together. Since our arrival, hilly roads and steep slopes, until open meadows unfold near the Sti's low banks. It was pleasant to look from the south at the pyramid of the Pronskys and the groves that are green in winter always. And to th east there lies as if a natural field for a camp, and there it was indeed placed later, but first, this was pondered for a long time. The Battle of Berestechko is commemorated on the tomb of the unknown soldier, Warsaw, with the inscription, Beresteczko 2830 Vi 1651.